And we're live. You see in life, in your life. This is the Stay Blessed podcast with me, with your host, Dare to Do Motivation. So last week, I uploaded the first episode of this podcast, of the Stay Blessed podcast. And actually, I got some quite good reviews from my subscribers. Thanks for that. And as I said in the description of the first podcast, that I will continue with my other videos, of course. This is just a new segment for everyone who's into listening podcasts, who is maybe driving in the car or just walking around and wants to listen to something. Then, yeah, this podcast is for you. We will be talking about spirituality, self-help, ideas, and in the future, I will have Skype guests and maybe have some conversations with one of you, one of my subscribers. There will definitely be some updates. Yeah, so let's get into it. Last week we talked about chapter 1 of the book Within You is the Power from Henry Thomas Hamblin, which I have been making a video series about. This week I uploaded chapter 4, Cause and Effect, and I mixed it with some visuals from the movie Inception, so make sure to check it out. The link is on top of you on the right. And tell me what you think of the editing. So, regarding last week, I got some interesting comments from you, from my subscribers who listened to the podcast, because it was the first episode of my podcast. I'm still a bit nervous. A lot of you said that the background music is something I won't need in the podcast, so we will leave it just like this, a cappella, just the way it is, without any music. Some of you said they missed the You See in Life part, so You See in Life, in your life. Definitely will add this to the end. And yeah, thank you for joining me on this podcast. Yeah, so we talked about the ideas in the first chapter, what this power could be from the universe that we can use in our everyday life to make our life better and to succeed and maybe to elevate ourselves to a higher consciousness where we not only seek, or where we actually don't at all seek, manifestations of material things that we want, but actually get to a higher realm where those things become unnecessary. Rochelle wrote in the comments, quote, "Universe is abundant. One can desire financial security for their family and themselves. Right, they are not hurting anyone. A lot of material is felt in gratitude and will give back. Stealing to get financial security is wrong. Believe it. Hope the design in your mind and have the faith you are creating your miracles. Believe equals faith. Yes, thank you." Unquote. So yeah, definitely agree with you, Rochelle. I also think that it's not bad if you want to have material possessions in your life, if you want to have a nice life, have nice things. But only if you don't hurt anyone in acquiring those material goods. As you say, a material is felt in gratitude and will give back. So if you don't hurt or steal from anyone to get financial security, I don't think it's a bad thing. We all want financial security in our life. Maybe not someone who has got the Buddha status already and is so elevated that it means nothing to him or her. But yeah, thank you for your comment, Rochelle. Giorno Fiati says, "Beautiful podcast, keep it up, bro." Thank you, Giorno. Candy Lane says, "I've been watching Dare to Do every night through this pandemic, and it's been brilliant for my lonely, depressed daughter who is 8 years old. Her world stopped. She doesn't know who anyone is anymore. The world needs to know the truth. Thank you for putting it out there." Thank you, Candy Lane, for your beautiful comment, and all the best to your 8-year-old daughter. I wish you both all the best. Thank you. Stay blessed. Yeah, Amir Furuhar. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrongly. He says, keep it the way it is. It will evolve every step, one step at a time. Words will get to ones who are willing to listen. If I get offended, it's on me, not nobody else. Everything grows, everything dies, on repeat. Great job, brother and friend of the path. Thanks, Amir. Thanks for motivating me in continuing this podcast. And yeah, I hope that it will grow on its own, that the ideas will come into my mind, and I will spread those ideas to you through this podcast, and the podcast will evolve. I'm very, very curious, but I'm sure it'll be a wonderful journey. Thanks again, Amir, for your comment. William Vavrik wrote, agreed, one has endless power, yet one must realize it. One can adopt the words man and women, etc., as an individual independent being. So William says he agrees that everyone has endless power, but everyone has to realize it for themselves, no matter if you're a man or a woman. If we all have this endless power, we all have to tap into our own endless power so we can realize it. So yes, don't be afraid of tapping into your own power, of believing in yourself, of having a vision, having an idea. And if you believe in that idea and in the vision, I think that the fruition, the materialization of that idea into the realm that we can all see will be quite astonishing, and maybe will be more amazing than you would ever have thought it could be. So sorry if I don't go into every comment that you've written. You've written some beautiful comments. Desta Williams says, blessed, love from Barbados. Barbados, thank you, Desta Williams. Love to you, love to Barbados. Barbados, I think where Rihanna is from. Stay blessed, Barbados. Much love. Opinder Kaur says, the most soothing and wise voice on YouTube. Thank you, Opinder. Appreciate it, really. So thank you all for your comments. You're motivating me to continue my channel, to continue this podcast. So let's get into today's subject. I thought I'd talk about chapter 4 of the book I just made a video about. So the book is obviously Within You is the Power by Henry Thomas Hamblin. And chapter 4, Cause and Effect. Cause and effects. It says, quote, man is the cause of the disasters in his life. He reaps through the ages, exactly as he sows. Life is perfectly just and rewards every man according to his works. Unquote. Do you agree on this, that we all cause our own disasters in our life? I agree to a certain extent. It is hard for me to comprehend when it comes to things like cancerous disease, when it comes to things like losing loved ones in an accident, for example. These are all disasters that we could face, and each one of us could face this reality in our lives. I don't see how we reap what we sow in situations like that. And I think for everyone who is in a situation like that, it would be hard to believe that it is our own doing, in a sense. So this for me is hard to comprehend, and maybe one of you could point out in the comments what the writer meant. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but just tell me what you think. If everything that happens to us is our own doing. I will continue. Quote, because the disasters in man's life are due to past wrongdoing, it naturally follows that his future depends upon the kind of life that he lives today. Unquote. I agree upon this if, for instance, you lived a bad and stupid life the last 10 years, then of course, the products of your last 10 years, they will gradually appear in your today. So if you've been drinking every day in the last 10 years, then today you will get the liver cirrhosis. Today you will have the brain fog. Today you will have the depression. Today you will have the alcoholism. But all of these things you didn't acquire from one day to the other. You acquired them in the last 10 years, and today they are here to punish you for the last 10 years. I think that's logical, really. But at the same time, if you are living with the consequences, let's say, of drinking too much alcohol for the last 10 years, it is not a reason to be depressed, because you are just reaping what you sowed in the last 10 years. So you can change the way you live for the next 10 years. And then obviously the reaping will be different the next time. So what I want to go into actually is that he talks a lot about that man cannot avoid or fight successfully against fate, but that he can become free from the wheel of fate by living a life in harmony with divine law. So fates basically says that if I interpret this right, that let's stick with the example of the person who drinks every day for 10 years. Does that then mean that your fate is the fate of alcoholism because of your drinking? Or am I understanding this wrongly? Maybe you can help me in the comments and clear up some of my own brain fog right now. So he says man cannot avoid, and I want to repeat that if he says man, he means mankind. So men and women equally. I want to repeat that again. If I say man, then I mean men and women. So let me translate it for him. We have already seen that men and women cannot avoid or fight successfully against fate. And then he goes on to say, at this point, it is necessary to point out that most of men and women's troubles are not caused by fate at all, but are due to his fighting against or trying to resist the great plan. If the experiences of life are resisted, or an attempt is made to evade its discipline, troubles and difficulties will repeat, becoming more painful and insistent, until their lesson is learned and the life changed accordingly. I mean, I agree to this because if you make a stupid choice in your life, you're on a crossway and you take the path that is least favorable for you. And you continue on that path and you see the path you chose wasn't good at all. And then you come to another crossway. And again, you choose the least favorable path for you, for your life. And again, you get through that path and you see, oh, this path wasn't any good for me. Didn't do me any good. And then again, you come to a crossroad with two paths. And again, you choose the least favorable path for your life. I mean, this goes on and on and on. And your troubles will only get bigger and bigger and bigger because you do not learn from your mistakes. You do not listen to your inner self. And again, you choose the wrong path. I mean, how many people do you know who choose a partner that is obviously not right for them? And they stick to that partner for a couple of months or a year maybe, then they break up. And then they choose exactly the same partner again in another person. And this goes on and on and on. And then they ask themselves, why do I always have such bad partners? But at the end of the day, that person always had the choice, but always chose wrongly. Although they knew what was going to come, but they didn't realize it really. But it's a rabbit hole, so you jump into the wrong path over and over and over again. So I think this is what the author meant with saying that. So, if you cease to create trouble for the future, then you begin to climb the path of liberation, which is the road all advanced souls have to follow, or rather have the privilege of following. By following this path, man ceases to be bound to the wheel of fate. So if you learn your lessons, and live in such a way as you come to a crossroad again, and this time you choose the right path for you, the path that was all along the right path for you, if you choose this path this time, you will break this cycle of your bad fate. You will be able to jump out of this wheel of fate that has been haunting you all your life. And now we're talking. Now you are taking the route that was meant for you, that was there for you in the first place. But because you were blind, you chose the wrong path over and over again. It takes, maybe it sounds easy, but it takes a person to really open their eyes to choose the right path in life. He goes on, quote, "Therefore man has it in his power greatly to improve his present life, as well as to create a far better future, simply by living his life today in harmony with divine law." Unquote. So if you are able to break this wheel of fate, if you have the courage to choose the right path, and if you don't know what the right path is, then maybe it doesn't matter. Sometimes you come to a crossroad and you have the feeling that you know what the right path is, but you still choose the wrong path. If you choose the right path, you will break this wheel of fate. And now you can start building your life, building your future bit by bit with what you want. At one point, the author says, "Because the disasters in man's life are due to past wrongdoing, it naturally follows that his future depends upon the kind of life that he lives today." Unquote. So yeah, your disasters in your life, and let's not talk about disease, cancerous disease, or losing loved ones in an accident, or horrible things like that. But just saying that things like losing your job, or being overweight, getting a divorce, things like that, everyday troubles, that maybe you are responsible for those things because you chose the wrong path, because you lived a life whose only consequence would be a disaster. So break through that chain of disasters by living rightfully today, by living the way you want to live, and by choosing the right path for you. He also talks about immediate consequences of bad decisions, and he says that what he means with immediate consequences is what we experience or feel 10 or 20 years later, or 15 years later. What you give, you receive. Life is like a boomerang. If you throw out a boomerang, the boomerang will come back to you. That is karma. And it always happens, doesn't it? So how you treat other people is the way that they will treat you. Maybe not now, but maybe when you're 80 years old. You will be treated exactly the same way as you treated someone when you were 20 years old. This is Cause and Effect, the chapter 4 of the book, The Power is Within You, from Henry Thomas Hamblin. And yeah, maybe the boomerang analogy explains this chapter the best. You throw out a boomerang, and the way you throw it, the way it'll come back to you. Yeah, there was a little talk about chapter 4 of the book Cause and Effect. I'll put the link down below of the chapter 4. Another thing I want to talk about is I watched a Joe Rogan podcast the other day where his guest was Francis Ngannou. I don't know how many of you are into UFC, mixed martial arts, but Francis Ngannou basically, he's from Cameroon, and he's a heavyweight fighter. Mixed martial arts fighter. Let's keep it at that. And the story he told, how he came, the journey he had to make from coming from Cameroon, Africa to Europe, was pretty crazy. It took him 14 months 14 months with ship, on foot through the desert, running from the police and soldiers and border guards, climbing wire fences, barbed wire fences that cut him open and left scars. But he always had that dream of becoming a fighter, a boxer. He always had that dream, and he stuck to his dream. When the people in his village said, "What are you thinking about? You're not a boxer, you're too old." Because I think he was about 20, 21, 22 when he left his village in Cameroon. And they said, "Look, you won't make it. Even if you make it, you won't become financially successful. You'll just get your head punched in and you will lose your brain cells." So everyone was telling him that his idea was stupid, that he wouldn't make it. But he proved them all wrong. He knew that if he wanted to become successful in boxing or fighting, he needed to go to Europe to get a chance. And as a lot of you may know, it is very difficult for a poor African guy from a village in Cameroon to come to Europe, to get there and make that journey into the unknown, into maybe a better life, into your dream. So he made this unbelievable journey for 14 months. As I said before, climbing barbed wire on a small boat, trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea. And in the end, he made it. He managed to get to Spain and France, where he started boxing, where he didn't have nothing. And his coach said, "Listen, boxing is a bit complicated. Better start mixed martial arts. I think you'll have a better chance in that." And he was hesitant at first, but then he continued with the mixed martial arts. And one day the UFC came calling, and within a couple of years, he was in the UFC in Las Vegas, fighting for big money. So yeah, he made it. He had the dream of becoming a boxer, but he became a mixed martial arts fighter. So in a lot of spiritual universal law books that I've read, it says that if you have a dream, you imagine a dream, it will come true if you don't give up on it. Sometimes the reality even becomes better than the dream you had. So he didn't become a boxer, but he became a UFC fighter. A very, very successful one. I think he will have a title fight coming soon, next month. So unbelievable success. Against all odds, he made it. I'm saying this because whatever your dream is, whatever you want to achieve in life, just go for it. Don't let anyone say that you can't do it or you won't make it. As long as you don't give up on an idea, the idea never dies. Just make sure it is the right idea for you and that it is worth pursuing. And saying that, I want to say thanks for watching. Yeah, I think that's it for today, for the podcast, Stay Blessed podcast. Never give up and always dream. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.